Hello and welcome to the Book Bunch. I hope you guys are having a great week. Thank you for joining me for another video. This one we are going to be talking about a sci-fi series that is quite close to my heart, as it is one of the ones I first fell in love with when I was a teenager that really got me into reading. So I thought I'd revisit it and give you guys a proper review. So the series today is the Eden Trilogy. We'll get right into it. So, this series is one of my favorites. It's very difficult to get a physical copy. I was lucky enough to track down one, but I had to get it specially from overseas. So, you'll probably only be able to find the ebook version, but it's only a few dollars, so that's also a bonus. I originally read it in the ebook version, and now I've just revisited it in the hard copy. The editing isn't great in this because it was self-published quite a number of years ago, and I don't know if they had a proper editor go through it, so there's some spelling mistakes and different things like that, but they don't bother me too much. This series is a sci-fi series. I would say at the absolute earliest, it's only appropriate for 16 years and up, but ideally no younger than 18 in my opinion, because after rereading it, I didn't realize the first time around how spicy it actually is. There's no actual sexy scenes, but there's the lead up, which can be a little bit intense sometimes. So just keep that in mind if you are a parent who is trying to be mindful of what they're giving their teenagers. I'd probably hold off on this series until they are adults themselves. But yeah, definitely appropriate for a young adult. But yeah, just be mindful. So this series is a trilogy. It is all about this post-apocalyptic world where most of humanity, it's like 98% plus of the world, has been wiped out or changed into these cybernetic zombies that have come about by this organization who is trying to create a cure for cancer, a cure for illness, and all of that kind of thing, organ transplants, that kind of stuff, by using cybernetics or these nanite robots to heal the human body. Except everything goes wrong and the nanites take over the humans' bodies and start to infect other humans by touching them and turning them into cybernetic zombie robots as well. It's very cool. I haven't ever read a concept like this. I've obviously read zombie stories and I've obviously read robot stories, but never with the two mashed together, and I love it so much. It's such a good concept. I really, really like it. I also want to make a note as well. Kiri Taylor, she is not normally a sci-fi writer or anything like that. She's actually a romance writer, and writes a lot of inappropriate things. Um, so I don't recommend her as an author per se for sci-fi, but for some reason she gave it a go and she absolutely nailed it. So that's really impressive. I do hope she returns to sci-fi in the future because I definitely pick it up and give it a read. Our story follows a main character named Eve, and she is part of a group of survivors. There's like 30 or 40 of them at the beginning, and they have to try and survive these zombies by basically staying clear of them as much as they can, or shooting them to basically kill them off and then destroying the bodies because the bodies can infect them. And they spend a lot of their time in the wilderness because most of these zombies kind of congregate in the cities, or that's at least where it's most dangerous because that's where most of the humans were when they got infected. But things are slowly changing because it's been 5 years since the original infection happened, and the robots are getting smarter and they are starting to come after and search for the rest of the humans that are left, because within their programming, they are driven by this need to infect, and so they're trying to hunt down any survivors they can. It's really cool. I like the evolution of the robots throughout the series because at first they're relatively like easy to avoid and everything because they sleep during the night and like different things like that. And as things progress in the story, they become more and more unpredictable, which I like. It's a good way to add a bit of action into the story. There is also a bit of a love triangle in the beginning between Eve, the main character, and the boy that she has known since she joined the survivors group, and then this newcomer that joins the group a bit later on. And I find it so interesting because she can't remember anything prior to her showing up in this group of survivors. So she can't remember anything prior to the age of 14. And it's really interesting. You find out a lot about her past, and that's a big part of the reveal and the discovery is about her and her past and like her family and different things. So I love that aspect as well. I just definitely recommend it to anyone who likes sci-fi. It's so good. I love this series. And the ending, oh my goodness, even in the reread, even though I knew what was going to happen, I knew how emotional it was, it still got me and I had a really good cry. But yeah, it's so good. I definitely recommend reading the series, especially if you like a good love story that ends the way you want it to, because I hate it when I'm rooting for a couple and then they don't end up together. It breaks my heart, and I am far too of a sensitive and emotional person to deal with that. So the fact that this ends with the people together you want to be together, it's perfect. I love it very much. I also just love how easy this is to read. It's so easy to just pick up and read until it's finished. It only takes a few hours to kind of get through each book. So I read all of them in about 2 days. So yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty easy, pretty fun to read. And if you do have it on the ebook version, I feel like it was even faster for me to read on the ebook version, but I don't know if that is because it feels different to read on an ebook. I'm not sure. But yeah, definitely recommend you pick it up. It's so, so, so good. But right now, I'm going to leave it there for you that are going to pick up this series and don't want to be spoiled, because now I'm going to go into the spoilers because I need to talk to people about this series and like get your thoughts on it. So, spoilers. The fact that Eve is the original like Torbane is like crazy to me. The fact that she is like this half robot and then you find out that she's not the only one because she's got a twin sister, like that throws you for a loop. And I didn't pick up on it the first time, but this second time round, when you're reading the journal at the beginning, you do notice that it's saying subject 1 and 2 straight away, and I find it interesting that they put that in there and then much later on be like, oh yeah, there's a second one. But I had forgotten all about that, so there's that. I also really love the ending where Avian is with Eve and all of that is sorted out between them and West, Eve won, and all of that kind of stuff. And those last 50 pages where everyone thinks Eve is dead and then she's not dead and she like has to unbury herself. Like that is nuts. So can you imagine how horrifying that would be? I know she's got like some emotional blockers and things, but oh my gosh, I still feel like that would have been absolutely terrifying. And I'm kind of impressed that she was able to dig herself out, because wouldn't it have been like kind of compressed still, even though it was a short amount of time, like it's still a number of days. And they didn't put her in a box. Like she wouldn't have had much room. She was just covered in silk. But that was crazy. I can't believe that happened. And just like all of the little twists and turns that happen, like Dr. Evans being still alive, and he was able to keep his humanity for a while, and then him like keeping that secret from everyone that Eve would die with the transmission, but he did it because he knew that it had to be done. And like, oh, there's so many like questionable moral moves that happen in this book that I don't know, it just adds to it, I think, because it adds that tension and that action that it needs to keep the story going in such a good way. And I just love it. I love all of the intricate details, and I love how like how much movement there is in the story, how like they start in the garden and everything's kind of good, but then there's the threats and they move the garden and they think everything's going to be fine, and then it's not fine, and then they have to run, and then they find the city, and then like there's all the city stuff, but then she gets taken away by the bad people and she ends up in the underground, and then like they come back to that, and then like oh, they don't know if they're going to get wiped out by the wave that's coming at them, and will just, and then they have to go to Novator, and like, you know, like how fast paced it moves and how they're never in the same location for long. Even if like the main group of people are in the same location, the fact that like these other groups are moving around and Eve is moving around, it just makes it so much more interesting to me, because this whole trilogy is set in this world rather than just one place, and I love that. I think Kiri did a really good job at that. I don't know. I think it was a really good series. I really want to know what you guys think in the comments below. If you've read this series, if you're gonna read this series, if you like sci-fi, if there's any sci-fi recommendations you have for me that you want me to review, because sci-fi is my favorite genre, and I would love to hear your recommendations, especially if you know of any Christian sci-fi, because I'd love to see if there's any good Christian sci-fi out there, because so far I haven't really come across very much, and the ones that I have aren't amazing. Like, I'd really love to find a really, really good sci-fi that is Christian. So let me know in the comments below. I really want to talk to someone about this series, so someone please read it so you can talk to me about it and all the twists and turns, because I love it, and I really am so glad that I revisited this after quite a number of years. I think it was like 7 years ago that I last read this series. So yeah, pick it up, get a copy, read it, please, and let me know your comments below, because I'd love to hear everything you have to say. And I hope you guys have an awesome week. Sorry if this was a bit of a shorter video than usual. I just don't want to spoil things too much, even though I gave you some major spoilers at the end in the spoilery section. I don't know. I don't know how much to divulge of it unless there's someone to chat with me about it. So yeah, if you want to chat, let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!